Morning. I'm Charles Cooper, just in case you're wondering. Pastor Chuck is away today. He's in France, probably eating bonbons and his finger in the air. So he's having fun. We'll pray for him. He'll enjoy his vacation time. If you've been around the last couple of weeks, you know that we've been talking about giving and the importance of utilizing our resources for the kingdom of God. Today we end that series, the third leg of our journey, talking about the joy in generosity, being generous in good deeds. I don't have to travel as much as I used to. I used to travel quite a bit. Europe, Africa, and Asia were regularly on my schedule. Of all the countries that I visited, the one that I fell in love with the most and loved, which in fact is my favorite, is India. The Indian people are fantastic people, very lovely, very gentle, very kind, and fantastic cooks. I love Indian food. My least favorite country that I would visit was Britain. Didn't like the Brits very much. The reason, of course, that I didn't like the Brits, but I loved India, the exchange rate. The rupee, usually, for many times that I was there, and I've been there probably 25 times, usually somewhere 40 to 60 to 1. You give them $1, they give you 40 rupees. And the economy is very, very cheap in terms of what we're used to. And so I'd go in there, and as soon as I got there, I'd call down to the health club, pedicure at 8, full body massage at 9, head massage, haircut, wax, shave, just the works. And, it'd be $70. And I'd live like a king. And I loved it. I loved it immensely. Unfortunately, in Britain, I was never able to get the dollar one-to-one. Never. Usually, it was one time as high as $2 for every pound that you'd buy. Fill up your car, $70, and it only holds 10 pints. Come on, give me a break. I couldn't live too well when I was in Britain, so that was not favored on my list. It is my hope that every one of you here this morning is making every plan to visit that far country called heaven. You need to know now there is an exchange rate in heaven. And if you're going to go there with the intent of staying, you need to make sure you are sending ahead money. You need money to live, right? And in heaven, you are going to need currency. There's just one little problem. Anything that you got here, you can't take with you there. No one has figured out yet how to get money past that grave. You can take it into the hole with you, but that's about it. Any of you planning to do that, just let me know where you're buried. Just last week, in fact, they found the tomb of Ptolemy V, I believe, and everything he took with him for the other life somehow got left. If you're going to heaven, you're going to need currency. And so this morning, we need to figure out how to make sure that you are stocking your account in heaven. You need to make sure now that you're not going to be poor in heaven. It's possible. It is possible. Some of you are saying, I ain't never read that in the morning. Okay, let me show you. First Corinthians chapter 3. If you have a Bible, turn there. It's not in the slide, but turn to First Corinthians chapter 3. I'll start at verse 10 in your Bible. I want you to mark this, by the way, because I want you to always remember this past today. First Corinthians chapter 3, verse 10. Says, according to God's grace that was given to me, Paul is talking, I have laid a foundation as a skilled master builder, and another builds on it, but each one is to be careful how he builds on it. Now, Jesus is the foundation. You got to build on it all while you are living on this earth as a believer. Paul says, be careful how you build, for no one can lay any other foundation than what has been laid down. The foundation is Jesus Christ. Verse 12. If anyone builds on the foundation with gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw, each one's work will become obvious, for the day will disclose it, because it will be revealed by fire. The fire will test the quality of each one's work. That's very important, because it's telling you that your account in heaven can be zero. If you live your entire Christian life, but all of your production is worthless, wood, hay, and stubble, it's going to all burn up. It text actually says you'll be saved. It's not a question of salvation, it's a question of rewards. And if you want to be rewarded, you better make sure that you're building with gold, silver, and precious stones. Now, the most important question you ought to be asking is, how do I do that? Because there will be nothing in this world, believe me, there's nothing in this world worse than you standing before God and everything you did burned up. It is possible. But we want to be more positive today, and I want to help you figure out how to do this in a positive way. Everything is about attitudes. Every work you do for Christ, the quality is determined by the attitude of it. Young people, you know, when your mom says take out the garbage, you know that attitude you catch right quick when you do that? That's what you don't want. What you want to do is to go frolicking joyfully to take out that garbage. That's what you want. Okay? So we got to talk about attitude. Now, the verse that we have based everything on in this joy and generosity is 1 Timothy chapter 6. He says, instruct those who are rich in the present age, right now, rich folk now, not to be arrogant. Now, see, that's an attitude word. Now, the sixth chapter of Timothy is very interesting. Timothy, young pastor, just getting started, evidently had a very nervous stomach, didn't like standing up before people, was kind of scared and timid. Evidently, he didn't have a phone booth to change in, so he was kind of scared all the time. And Paul says, listen, drink a little wine, give yourself a little courage, and tell them what I told you to tell them. Now, in the first chapter of chapter 6, the first part of it says, listen, don't desire to be rich. Money creates all kinds of problems. It's the root of all kind of evil. Stay away from it if you can. But now, for you who have already made it, let me tell you a few things. So in the last part of the chapter, he's going to talk to the folk who've made money. So you got plenty of money. You rolling in dough. He says, listen, don't be arrogant. Attitude. In other words, you can have all the money in the world, but if you're arrogant, it counts nothing for God. Wood, hay, and stubble. Yeah, I love this word arrogant in the Greek. Hypsotherio. It means it's made up of two words. To think highly. Actually, it's a superlative. Highest. So Paul says, don't think highest of yourself. That's a good way to translate that word arrogant. Thinking highly of yourself because of your money. Now, I've met a lot of people with money, and some of them certainly are quite arrogant. He says, or to set their hopes on the uncertainty of wealth. See, that's why it's arrogant. Because, listen, money today is won't necessarily be what it's worth tomorrow. By the way, you see this all the time, don't you? There was old stuff in the attic your grandpa had, and you threw it away. Now it's worth money. You said junk. Another man said money. That means wealth is ever changing. Stuff that's no value today will be worth value tomorrow. Stuff that is of value today will be of none tomorrow. It's fleeting, Paul says. Listen, whatever you do, don't put your hopes in money. Now, for you who got a lot of it, that might be a little unnerving. For you who don't have any, you're saying, not my problem. But he says, put your hope in God, who richly provides with all things to enjoy. God gives money for people to enjoy. If you got a lot of it, enjoy it. Nothing wrong with enjoying. Take me with you. Instruct them to do what is good. Instruct them to do what is good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and willing to share. And that's very simple. Listen, have lots of good works, so your account in heaven is filled. Be generous and willing to share. So this is my thought today. This is basically what I want to say to you. Lavishly generous with whatever you have a lot of. Be lavishly generous with whatever you have a lot of. See, don't get trapped into thinking it's all about money, because it's not. You have three things: time, talent, and treasure. You have time, talent, a gift, an ability, and you have treasure, some of you, okay? Whichever one of those you have the most of, be lavishly generous with it. That's all you got to do. You young people in here, I'm looking at young people, you don't have any money. You don't have a dime. Your mom and dad got all your money, and you got to beg for it. Can I have a allowance now? Nope. Back to broke. You don't have any money, okay? But I tell you what you probably have a lot of. You have a lot of time. Because you don't have to cut wood anymore. You don't have to bring the bath water. You got a lot of time on your hand. You spend a lot of time on that computer. You on Facebook, face chat, time chat, quarter chat, 3/4 of a chat. You got all kinds of stuff. And you spend 4 or 5 hours a day just gaming. You can be lavish with your time. We have lots of stuff around here you can do. I tell you what, you can be generous with your giving of your time. Some of you mental people, you don't have much time. Life has gotten real busy for you. You don't have a lot of time, but now you're at your peak earning season in your life. You do have a lot more money now than you used to have. Be lavish with it. Some of you have a talent, incredible talent. Be lavish with the thing. Share it, give it. Everywhere somebody wants someone to sing, go. If they need a tambourine player because you were not blessed with voice, be generous with your talent, see? This is the key to understanding how you can make sure that heaven is being bombarded with your account, because every one of you has an account in heaven. Make sure you are depositing in your account. So today we want to talk about being generous with your deeds. Find where you are in this phase of your life, because some of you are in a different phase of life. Some of you moms, you don't have any time. Don't call you. You don't have time for nothing. You're so busy with this and that. You're all over. You don't have time. Some of you have more time than others. Some of you have more treasure. You've been blessed. So lavishly generous with what you have a lot of. Now, what we happen to need around here today is a lot of workers. We need a lot of workers. This is a beehive, and we need you to become one of them bees around here. And I'd like to show you how this can intersect with where you are in your life, depending on what's going on. Whatever you have the most of, whether time, treasure, or talent, be lavishly generous. Because if you understand that physical money cannot get past the grave, then you know that the attitude should control what you do with your time, your treasure, and your talent, so that you're making sure that you're stockpiling heaven. Now, let's look at an illustration of this to show you how it possibly can work. In the Bible, there's a story of the Good Samaritan. You've heard it before. The Good Samaritan is about a Samaritan who was nice to a Jewish person. Now, you got to be careful with this Good Samaritan, because it is a parable. A parable teaches a truth. Now, some teach more than one truth, but most parables only teach one truth. And the Good Samaritan is a parable that's a little deceiving, because you may get the wrong idea. This parable is purposely one of contrasts, opposites, and extremes. It's a parable about extremes. You've got basically good people who think they're good. They're doing bad things. And you got bad people, some people think they're bad, who are doing good things. So this parable is about the religious who do bad things and the bad person, the Samaritan, who did a good thing. Now, the story can be a little deceiving because it's contextual to a time, not now. If you were going down the road and suddenly you came upon someone who had been robbed and beaten up, you would just get out of your car, you would call the police, you would call an ambulance, you would wait, the ambulance would come, take the person to the hospital, the police would get a report, and they'd try to find out who the robber was by trying to find any cameras anywhere around that captured it on television. It's all different today. You wouldn't come up and say, oh, well, poor man got beaten up. Do we have any bandages, honey? Yeah, I got a first aid kit. Well, let's bandage him up. Is there a hotel anywhere around? Yeah, Motel 6. They're the cheapest. Yeah, we're going to take him to the 6. Buy him a room and tell him take care of him. When we come back, we'll give you some more money. It wouldn't happen. That's not the way things work today. So we have to take illustration from the story because there's not a one-to-one app anymore. There are 3 illustrative points that we can pull out of it, and those are the 3 that I want to give you in terms of how you ought to live your life from this day forward, if you want to make deposits in heaven every day, which you'll have opportunity to make sure that your bank account in heaven is thoroughly running over. Most people can do these things. There are 3 truths illustrated in the story of the Good Samaritan, which I think we can adopt as truths to live our lives by. Number 1, I would say be ready to adjust your schedule. Be ready to adjust your schedule, okay? Notice in the story of the Good Samaritan, he tells us in Luke tells us the Samaritan, he says, for a Samaritan on his journey came up to him, and when he saw the man, he had splagchnizomai. Stomach started bubbling with anticipation. It's a beautiful Greek word, actually. He started compassion. Now notice, this is time. It says your schedule, be ready to adjust your schedule. That means your time. Every day of your life, as you get up, you're going to have time. Some of us have more than others, but you're going to be looking for opportunities that God may provide for you to build into your heavenly war chest by taking time with people. You'd be surprised how 5 minutes of your day for someone is all they need to be superly blessed, and you get a reward. Just 5 minutes. You'd be surprised how stopping to hear what someone says when you say, how are you? Because we don't stop. How are you? As we pass by. Just stopping, you shock people. He stopped. So, well, what do you want? Well, I asked you how you were doing. I'm waiting to hear. Really? Yeah. You bless people. Just giving people a little time. Because most people don't have time for anybody to hear what they have to say. Too busy. And in this age of all the inventions that we have made have been to give us more time. Washing machine, vacuum cleaners, electric lights, garbage disposal, refrigerator, cooking stove in the house. All these things were supposed to give you more time. What happened? You don't have more time. So taking time, giving God some time out of your schedule is an effective way for you to not only multiply your reward in heaven, but to bless people here on earth. Be generous, he says. Perhaps your generosity is going to be in your giving of time. Number 2, he says, always be ready. I think I put this called this talent. Be willing to engage. The Samaritan came along, he saw a fellow in bad shape, and he became engaged in his life. He had no idea what it was going to involve. He didn't know how much he was going to have to do or how much time he was going to have to give to it, but he took the time. It says in Luke chapter 10, verse 34, he went over to him, time, bandaged his wounds, talent, pouring on oil and wine, generous, Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to the Motel 6, and took care of him. He had to get engaged. Now, in this day and time, of course, there's a lot of issues. We used to give mouth to mouth if someone was dying. Now we don't do that anymore because you don't know what's in that mouth. So, can't do that. Pump, 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 pump. Hope they get there real fast, okay? About all you can do. You got to get engaged. So I'm asking you to figure out ways to use your talent as an engagement. Some of you young people around here, the church can use you. You just heard a beautiful choir of kids singing, and the pastor who told you we have lots of kids ministry. We are building and wiping and rubbing around here, getting ready for more cheering, and we're going to need helpers. You're going to need to get engaged. Sometimes just listening is all you need. Last night at the Dream Center, we went out into the community, one of our first forays, and about 16 to 18 of our people went out to register people so we know where we were looking for young single mothers. And they went to one house of a widow lady. She came to the door, and it didn't take long for them to realize that this was not going to be a 2-minute conversation, which was about all the time they had for each stop. She wanted to talk because no one had been there all day. And she just liked to talk. They could have stayed an hour. Matter of fact, they probably could have spent the night. Come on in, baby. Everything. Just being engaged enough to listen sometimes is all you really need in order to bless people. So number one, you got to be ready to adjust your schedule. That's a time issue because you may have a lot of time. Secondly, you got to be willing to engage. That may be a talent. Some of you are very compassionate. Some of you have a very compassionate heart. Some of you have that talent for being able to help people and say the right words at the right time. Whatever that ability that God has given you and you are able to use it to better people's lives, be lavishly generous with it, and you will be stockpiling in heaven for eternity while people on earth are receiving the benefit. And then third illustration or thing that we can glean from this story is be generous. Be generous. He tells us in Luke chapter 10, verse 35, Luke says, the next day he took out 2 denarii, 2 days' wages, gave them to the innkeeper and said, take care of him. When I come back, I'll reimburse you for whatever extra you spend. Lavishly generous. Because he had the resources to do it. Most uncharacteristic that a Samaritan, hated by Jews, would spend so lavishly on a Jewish person found beaten up on the road. Now, see, Jesus is going to extra extremes here to make the story compelling. You're probably not going to be in that vein every day, although you certainly can find a lot of people with a lot of needs. I mean, there are a lot of people who have a lot of needs. And if God has blessed you, if he has given to you resources, be generous. Be generous with it. Spend lavishly. Spend extra. Now, I know those are fighting words to someone who has a lot of money. The idea of just throwing money, you can't take it. You're cardiac arrest. But you got to learn to be generous. Most of us in here, that's not going to be the issue for us. It's going to be whether we are generous with our time or generous with our talent. If you look in the bulletin today, in your bulletin there's a little announcement card. Everyone had one. Everyone got one when you walked in the door. In fact, this is the only thing that you're supposed to take with you that they handed you. When you leave here, there's a little basket, and you drop everything else in that basket, and we recycle that for next week. The only thing that you're supposed to take is this. You were supposed to write your sermon notes in there that I gave you brilliantly as they are. And then on the front and back, well, guess what? Opportunities. Foundation Academy Preview Day, come by, smile, say hello. Fall I Care Work Day. You can actually go cut someone's lawn, you can go wash somebody's window, you can go up and pot somebody's porch. Right. Opportunity to serve. Trunk or treat. You can decorate your car, fill it with candy, open it and say, here, have at it. Opportunity to serve. To serve. Worship Arts Ministry. tambourine banger. You got a gift, you play some kind of instrument, you got a vocal capability, you got a talent. Did you know that if you would actually come and just move chairs and microphones and nightstands, what a great aid that would be to people who are trying to make sure that everything happens with beauty? It's a talent, man. And guess what? Doing it with a great attitude, you are actually making deposits in your account in heaven. How easy is that? See how easy it is? In other words, whatever you have a lot of, be lavishly generous with it. If you got a time, use your time. If you have a talent, use your talent. If you're blessed and you have lots of money in this phase of your life, be generously lavish with it. Accomplishing 2 birds with 1 stone. Making deposits in heaven because of the right attitude, helping people on earth who need it. That's really what it's all about. I want you to bow your heads, close your eyes, because this is really important. I want you to really think about this, because when this day is gone, you won't get it back. If you're not making a deposit today, it's lost. Piano's going to play a soft song. We'll be saying. And this really is an opportunity for you to reevaluate, to make sure, number one, that you're building with stuff that's quality. Control your attitude. And then thirdly, serve. Serve. Repay the love. Quietly pray as he sings, oh, how he loves you and me.